All rise. We will obey. Please be seated. Pouvez vous s'asseoir.
We're in open session, Your Honors.
Thank you very much, and witness, welcome back. Ms. Sago, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we continue this session, I'd like to clarify whether it would be appropriate to conduct the remaining of this line of questioning in private session. The reasons were mentioned briefly before the pause. The prosecution has a concern that the information that may be elicited later could identify the witness, but additionally there might be some issues as well concerning or surrounding Rule 74. We would refer respectfully to Mr. Mutai, who might be also more familiar with the specific provisions under Kenyan law, in particular under the International Crimes Act with respect to crimes against the administration of justice, and whether any line of questioning, as anticipated in the previous session, may trigger the application of the specific provisions under the International Crimes Act, and for that reason may be more appropriate to conduct the examination in private session.
If you indicate that there's a possibility of engaging Rule 74, or there's a likelihood of Rule 74 matter being engaged, I think that's enough information for us. And also you've indicated that there may be other reasons why the line of questioning may identify the witness beyond the strict requirements of Rule 74. 1 second. The decision of the chamber is that we will do this in private session.
Private Mr. Court, session. Please.
We're in open session, Your Honors.
All right. The consultation council that you were noticing there was about schedule that is possible to have in order to make some way in finishing this witness. We're able to sit until 6 p.m. today to try and make some time on this witness. But there will have to be a break at 4 for 30 minutes so that the tape can be changed and that sort of thing as well. So that is what the plan is for today. Do you any serious objections to that in terms of plans that cannot be changed?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Thank you for that.
And I also noticed that from the Ruto defense team,
we welcome this decision. We only hope that it would not mean that our disclosure may be out of time, because we disclosed at lunchtime today in anticipation of the fact that this examination in chief is going to go until tomorrow. So considering the extension of the time, we may be caught out in a way
that's all right. We can deal with that when the time comes.
Well, I'd rather signal it now, such that when the time comes...
You've given notice now.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
And Ms. Parson, Mr. Keegan-Katwa?
We are happy about it, Mr. President.
Thank you. And for the interpreters as well and the court reporters for understanding. So let's... Mr. Mutai, sorry, the disadvantage of not being here with us is sometimes it's easy to forget that you're part of the thing, but of course you are. We try not to forget. So we will be sitting extended hours today. Hopefully that will not cause you too much difficulty in Nairobi.
Mr. President, I had been put on notice that there was likely to be a ruling of that kind. I'm comfortable with it.
Oh, thank you very much for your cooperation. So we will continue, Ms. Akmo.
Thank you. A point of clarification. When you met representatives of organization number 19, did they show you any document or any identification paper that they were affiliated indeed with that organization?
Kuna kadi walikuwa wananitolea kila mmoja kunionyesha.
Answer. Each person presented a card.
And was that card from organization number 19? This is what I'm trying to understand.
Ndio.
The witness, yes.
And which language did you speak with these representatives on 10 March, 8 August, and 9 September 2011?
Mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa natumia lugha ya Kiswahili, lakini kulikuwa na mkalimani aliyekuwa kibadili.
Answer. I was speaking Swahili, but there was an interpreter who interpreted into English for me.
And who was the interpreter? Was it person number 20, 21, or 22?
22.
Was number 22.
And going back to this meeting that you said you had on the 9th of September 2011, please tell us, what did you discuss with them at this meeting?
Kitu cha kwanza walichoanza walinipigia
The first thing, when they started, they spoke to me about the amount that they were going to give me in order to compensate the losses that I had during this time, and I was in agreement with them. After that, they told me that there would be something else that I would have to help them for.
And what was this something else?
Walifahamisha kwamba walikuwa wameshapata ripoti yangu.
They told me they already had my report. I don't know where they got this report from. I had already written a report with them, and they said, having examined this report, they found...
Heard.
Not at all. Thank you.
Mr. President, it is on three aspects. The first one is that the witness said that he was told that the three individuals had information about him. That's one. Second is that they had received a report from him. Three is that they had their own report. And combining all those, they were of the view that the witness could be of assistance to them in this case, and that he was asked if he could assist them in adducing evidence in respect to the case that they proposed to present. That's how I understood, Mr. President.
Well, that's how you understood. All right, one can see how you may have understood it that way, but let's now get from the witness what the witness was saying. Now, witness, can you help us understand now? We're still in private session. Keep that in public session. We're in public session. Keep that in mind. Did you say at this meeting you had with these three persons, did you say you had given them a report? You gave them a report.
Ndio waliweza kunihoji niwapee historia.
They asked me questions, and I spoke to them about my story since 1992 until 2008.
All right. Well, let's so that there is no misunderstanding about what we mean by report. Report can be, let's say, somebody goes to somebody else and tells them a story, as you may have in a school. One student goes and reports another student to the teacher. We can call that a report. But also there's a report in another sense, in the sense of somebody has written up something, himself or herself, and then presented that thing that he or she wrote to somebody else. That's also called a report. Do you understand the difference?
Nimeelewa vile umesema.
I have understood as you've said it.
What we want to be clear now is what happened in terms of from you to them, did you present something in writing to them during that meeting? As in a report in writing? Did you present a report in writing to those individuals during that meeting?
Niliwapatia ushahidi, walikuwa kiandika.
Well, I gave them my testimony. They were the ones who wrote down as I was telling them my story.
Am I to understand that you did not actually hand over to them anything in writing yourself? Something you yourself wrote? Or something somebody wrote for you and then you presented it to them? Was that not what happened, or was that what happened?
Ndiyo, sikuwapa ripoti. Niliwapa.
Yes. Yes, you've understood it well. I didn't give a written report to them. I gave my testimony to them. I spoke. I spoke directly to them.
All right, Ms. Sago, take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, we're trying to understand something that you said before the break. And you said that the reason why you canceled your trip to The Hague was because someone had dictated that testimony to you. So we're trying to understand what you mean by that. And I want to understand, when was it that a testimony was dictated to you?
Kuanzia tulilala siku hiyo katika nambari 10.
First of all, we spent the night in number 19, and the next day they started to tell me how I was going to speak. They told me what I was going to say to them.
And what did they started telling you?
Walianza kunifunza.
Well, they started telling me how I was going to speak if I was asked to go to the court against Mr. Ruto to say that he was the accused for the province of the Rift Valley, the person who was the leader.
And what did they say specifically that you were to say if you were going to speak to the court against Mr. Ruto? What did they tell you to say?
Ningesema kwamba Bwana Ruto ndiye alikuwa anasimamia vita.
That I say that it was Mr. Ruto who was leading the war, and that he had his brothers or his subordinates who were helping him.
Did he tell you anything else?
ilikuwa ni mafunzo, na ni mafunzo haikuchukua siku moja. Ni mafunzo ilienda polepole.
It was training. It didn't take a whole day. It just went progressively. It took about 4 to 5 months in total.
Yes, I'm interested about that first day, that 9 or 10 September that you referred to. I want to understand clearly the entirety of your discussion with these people on that day.
Watu wale nambari 19. Hapo ndo walianza
These people, number 19, this person at number 19, told me briefly how what I was going to say with regard to the participation with regard to Mr. Ruto in this conflict. So progressively it was done so that in my testimony I could involve him in things and that I could speak about people, speak about who the people I was going to incriminate along with Mr. Ruto.
Who were these other people that you were supposed to incriminate?
Hakusema kustakiwa pamoja nawa, ila yeye awe kama mkubwa wao.
They didn't say the accused with them, but they said that he was their leader and the others were subordinates.
Did they tell you who the subordinates were?
Nikienda katika orodha ya person,
if I look at the list of persons here, you've got number 2, number 3, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 13, number 14, and number 18.
Putting aside this document, did they tell you did he tell you the names of other subordinates?
wale walionipatia majina, hawanipatia majina nimeyataja, ndio yale ambayo.
Well, those are the names that were given to me.
These are all the names that were given to you. Is that right?
Ndio, na mimi nilikuwa nimewapatia majina.
Yes. And I'd given them other names like number 1.
11.
11.
No.
Number 15. And number 17.
And how come that you provide this additional 4 names to them?
Hiyo majina mane nilikuwa nikiwapatia. Lengo langu
These 4 names that I gave to them, they were people such as, for example, number 1, number 11, number 12, people who had helped a lot in this place, number 2, where it speaks about locations.
What do you mean that these people had helped a lot at location number 2? What do you mean by that? Helped what?
walikuwa kihakikisha ya kwamba hawataki kuona jamii ya Wakikuyu.
These people said that they didn't want the Kikuyu to be attacked.
I don't understand, witness. Please help me. Why did you add these 4 names?
Nimeeleza kwamba.
Let me finish the question. Sorry, witness. I'll give you the time to answer. Why did you provide these 4 names to additional names to the representatives? In what context did you provide these additional names? For what purposes?
Mimi nilianza kuwaeleza kuanzia mwanzo kwamba.
Well, I started to tell them that number 1, number 11, 12 had helped us a lot in our region. I wanted to confirm that there was no member of my family that had been attacked.
Nikiongezea hapo, hiyo nambari 1.
You could add that number 1 and number 12, they were from the Kipsigis ethnic group.
Witness, before we were speaking about subordinates of Mr. Ruto, that these individuals told you to implicate. Did you provide these 4 names, additional names of number 1, 11, 12, sorry, number 1, number 11, 15, and 17 as subordinates as well? Or did you provide them in another context?
Hiyo list ni tofauti kabisa kwa sababu hawa ni watu walikuwa tofauti.
This list was different. These people were different.
But were you the one who gave those individuals this different list of people. Number 1,
Ndiyo,
11. Did you say 15 and 17? Were you the one who gave the list to the individuals from organization number 19?
ndiyo nimesema kwa hiyo hao watano.
Yes, I said that I was the one who gave the list of these 5 people, saying that these were people who had helped us.
Is there any other reason why you gave the names of these additional people to the organization at number 19? You said you gave the name to tell them these are people who had helped you. Us was the expression you used. What I want to find out was, apart from that reason for giving the names, was there any other reason that you gave this additional list of different names to the representatives of the organization at number 19? Any other reason for giving the names?
Sababu maana kwa hapo, wakati nilikuwa nikiandika ushahidi wangu kwa nambari 19 kuwaeleza, ndio niliwapea hiyo listi ya watu 5. Ndio baadaye wakanipatia listi ya watu wengine kutoka pande wao.
Afterwards they gave me their list.
We will return to their list perhaps, but now let's focus on the list of the additional names you gave to them. That's what I want you to think of now. And if you can kindly listen to me. You said you've already told the court that yes, you gave the representatives of organization number 19 this additional list of names. Names being number 1, number 11, 12, 15, and 17. I think 5 names. And you said you gave the list to say that these are people who had helped you. You've already told us that. My question now is, is there any other reason why you gave that list to that organization?
Hakuna sababu nyingine. Sababu ilikuwa tu ni
There wasn't another reason. The only reason was to tell them that we had been helped by them in this region.
na nikieleza hivyo sikukuwa nimesema namba 17 kwa sababu namba 17.
And I gave this I didn't mention number 17 because number 17 lives very far from this region.
All right, that correction is noted. Ms. Sago, can you continue?
Witness, apart from the list of subordinates that they gave you, were you told to implicate anybody else as responsible for the violence?
Walikuwa wamenifahamisha ya kwamba nitaeleza ya kwamba katika
You have to explain that in different constituencies, the different leaders were in charge of the war in these places. The different members of parliament were the war leaders in different places. So they told me that I had to say that these different leaders were the responsible for the persons in charge of conducting the war in these places.
Which leaders?
Wabunge waliokuwa wamechaguliwa katika uchaguzi.
The members of parliament that have been elected during the elections. The elections of 2007 in these different constituencies.
And who are they?
Nitasema hapa nambari 4.
I would say the following: number 4, number 9, number 13, and there's another name that is not on this list.
Mr. President, we could get the name in private session and then determine whether we can refer to that person again in public session. That would be more prudent, I believe.
Private session.
We're in open session, Your Honors.
Witness, after this meeting on the 9 and 10 of September 2011, how many times did you meet with number 20, 21, and 22 before being interviewed by the Office of the Prosecutor?
Tulikutana na hawa kama mara 5 hadi mwaka.
Answer. We met on 5 occasions that year. I recall that it was in the month of January of that year.
For
The English interpreters, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes, may I assist, Your Honour? I think that what happens is that when the witness answers and then remembers that he wants to add something to his answer, in that space of time, when somebody else begins to talk, that's when the overlapping occurs, and we can then no longer free up the channel to add to his response. That is where the situation is going wrong, I believe. Thank you.
All right. Nairobi, can you now hear me?
Yes, Mr. President, we can hear you.
All right. We will try and soldier on. Witness, remember the pause we talked about? Try and observe the pause. Also, I want you to be mindful of something else you might be able to do. If you finish speaking and you stopped and you want to add something later, also try and wait for 5 seconds before you add anything else once you've given your first batch of answers. Do you understand?
Ndiyo nakusikia.
Answer, yes, I have understood you.
It might also help if you gave us some verbal cue that you are about to add something so that we can stop talking. You can say that by saying something like, may I add something, or I'd like to add something. That way you don't have the person asking the question talking while you're adding something else. All that will help us work smoothly. Thank you. Mr. Ago.
Thank you. Witness, you said that you met representatives of organization number 19 in January. Is that January 2012?
Mara ya mwisho tulikutana
Answer. The last time we met was in January 2014.
Okay, let's go back for a second to my original question. How many times you met with these representatives between 10 September 2011 and the time you spoke and gave an interview to the office of the prosecutor? How many times?
Baada ya kunifunza na mafunzo ikaisha, walikuja zaidi ya safari.
Answer. After having given me the information, they continued communicating with me, and we saw each other on 10 occasions.
Tell us the dates of these 10 occasions, if you recall.
Nikisema kwa hiyo mkutano ya salamu, mikutano nakumbuka vizuri ni yenye walikuja kwa nyumba yangu kunitembelea.
Answer. The meetings that I recall were when we met at my home. That is when they came to visit me.
Witness, I asked you about the dates, not where, but when you met on 10 occasions with representatives of person 19. Thank you.
Kwa kunitembelea walikuja mwezi wa 3 mwaka 2000.
Answer. They came to visit me in March 2012.
You said 10 times. Can you tell us the other dates after or before March 2012?
Ndiyo, nakumbuka tena mwezi wa 8 mwaka huo wa 2012.
Answer. I remember that they also came in the month of August 2012.
Tena walikuja mwaka wa 2012 December.
Subsequently, they returned in the month of December 2012. That was at Christmas time.
Wakakuja mwaka wa 2013 mwezi wa 4.
Then they came in the month of March, or rather the month of April 2013.
Ya mwezi hiyo mwaka huo kabla ya mwezi wa 10 walikuja. Mwezi ndio nimesahau hapo katikati.
In the same year, they returned before the month of October, but I do not recall the month.
Huo wa 2013 December walikuja.
But I do remember that they came in the month of December of 2013.
Ya mwisho ni 2014 January.
And the last time that they came was in the month of January of this year, 2014.
So is that correct that before you mentioned you met the Office of the Prosecutor in June 2012, you had 3 meetings, one meeting in March 2012 before you met the Office of the prosecutor's representative. Is that correct?
Ndiyo, nilikutana na hawa kabla sijaenda kutoa ushuhuda.
Answer. Yes. I met with them before I went to give my statement.
And in March 2012, did you discuss the Ruto case as well with them?
Kesi ya Bwana Ruto tulimaliza mwaka 2011.
Answer. We had already talked about the Ruto case in the year 2011. The other visits were with a view to asking me whether I could recall anything and asking me how I was doing. It was a courtesy call.
So am I correct in understanding that you discussed matters related to the Ruto case on one occasion only, before meeting with the OTP?
Tulizungumza mambo ya Ruto.
Answer. We talked about the Ruto case on the 10th of September 2011. And we met when they came to see me in order to remind me of what had been said previously.
And when they came to see you in order to remind you of what?
Ndivyo, vitabu viwili vilijaa na kitabu kimoja kikawa nusu.
Answer. Yes, I filled the 2 copybooks and the third was halfway finished.
And the first 2 books, what was the information there contained there? What was the information about in those 2 books?
Asilimia kubwa yalikuwa ile mambo ambayo nilitoa ushahidi.
Most of it was my testimony, which was found in those copybooks.
Yes, I'm trying to understand what part of your testimony was contained in those books. Was it the information about the Ruto case in those books?
Kitabu kimoja na hicho nusu kilikuwa mambo ya Ruto. Kitabu kingine.
In 1 book and a half, you had the Ruto case, and the rest of it was information on Uhuru Kenyatta.
And in the third half-finished book, what was the information there?
Ilikuwa ni habari sawa kwa sababu kitabu cha kwanza kilijaa, nikaendelea na kitabu cha pili, mambo yakaishia katikati.
It was normal. I had finished the first book and the second book, and we were then using the third book, so they all had the same information, all 3 books.
So you had 3 books containing all of 3 the same information. One was the copy of the other. Is that what you're trying to say?
Nasema kwamba kitabu kimoja na nusu.
I was saying that in 1 and a half books, you had a testimony on Mr. Ruto, and in the other book, you had testimony on Mr. Kenyatta.
And you said that you went to the place of interview with the Office of the Prosecutor with all three of these books. But then to the interview itself, you only brought one half-finished book. Is that correct?
Ndiyo, kitabu hicho nilikuwa
Yes. In that book, I wrote certain information, such as summaries, in order to remember what was contained in the book that was completely filled. That is why I brought the book that was only half filled.
But if you had with you the other book, the more complete one about the information you were supposed to supply about Mr. Ruto, why didn't you bring it to the interview itself?
kwa sababu singelibeba vitabu vyote vitatu.
Because I could not bring all the three books. I could not carry all the three books. The information on Mr. Ruto was found in 1.5 books, and I knew that I would not be requested to provide all the information, so I could not bring all three books.
How was it that you traveled from your location to the place of the interview with all of three of these books, but brought to the interview itself only one?
Nilipeleka kitabu kimoja kulingana na walimu wangu ambao.
I brought only one book because number 19 told me that the first questions were on the family and names, and I knew that this book that contained information on names was the one I was going to bring, and the next day I would then determine what book to bring. So everything depended on the type of questions they were going to put to me.
Witness, let's try to clarify the content of this half-finished book. You just said before that it contained information in summary form about the evidence that you were supposed to provide the Office of the Prosecutor. And now you're saying that the information contained names of your family. So I'm trying to understand what was exactly the content of this book that you brought during the interview with the Office of the Prosecutor?
Kitabu hakikuwa kwa mambo ya jamii peke yake. Hiyo kimechanganywa.
The book did not only contain information on my family, it also contained information on the conflict. So everything was found in that book.
So when did you bring this book to the interview exactly?
Siku ya kwanza ambayo ilikuwa tarehe 10.
On the first day, that is on the 18th, I brought that book. And afterwards, on the 19th, they told me that they wanted to see the book that they had seen. So I brought that book to them and I handed it over to them.
Did you tell the investigators that you had with you at that location another book, a bigger book, a more complete book, as you said?
Sikuweza kuambia kile ambacho nili.
I could not tell them that. What I condemned was that on the 18th, when we started this matter, if I made a mistake, for example, if it not mentioned the name of Ruto or Sang, they will stop their machine, go out and discuss outside before they will come back and they would say, I have to pronounce or state the two names. It is the names of Sang and Ruto.
Before we get to that, I want to know why, or rather, whether you told the investigators that you had a second book with you at your interview location.
Sikuambia kwa sababu aliniitisha tu kitabu.
No, I did not give them that information because they only requested for the book that they had seen. Since they did not see the other books, they did not have any reason to ask me whether I had other books with me.
But the question is, why did you not tell them?
Sikuambia kwa sababu sikutarajia.
I did not tell them because I did not expect them to need the other books.
I want to understand why, in your mind, were representative of organization number 19 asking you to implicate Mr. Ruto.
Ndiyo, nambari 19.
Yes. Number 19. It was they who trained me and guided me on how I could implicate Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang.
Witness, I know that you mentioned that you were told to implicate Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang. But if I'm not mistaken, you didn't mention the name of Mr. Sang before. Why is that?
Mr. President, I think the question is not very clear. I think it should be clarified as to where counsel is referring to. Is it in his testimony here or during his interview? Because it's not clear to me where it's being referred.
Yes, thank you. I can clarify. Witness, in your testimony today, you told the court that you were told to implicate Mr. Ruto by the organization under number 19. Now you just mentioned that you were told also to implicate Mr. Sang. But this is the first time now that you tell the court that you had been told to implicate Mr. Sang as well. Why is that?
Nasema hivyo kwa sababu uzito mkubwa alikuwa.
I said that because a lot of importance was attached to Mr. Ruto. As far as Mr. Sang was concerned, only some information, little bits of information were given.
And besides these two, were you told to implicate anybody else beyond the names that you had already given us?
Hakuna mwingine isipokuwa hawa wawili.
No, there are no other persons apart from those two.
But my question at the beginning was, why, in your mind, was this organization asking you to implicate Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang?
Mimi sikuelewa. Wao wenyewe nambari 19 wanajua.
I don't know. It is only the people that is of number 19 who knew what their objective was.
Did you ever ask them why?
Sikuweza kuwauliza.
No, I never asked them that.
So why did you decide to go along with this?
Pesa ambazo walikuwa wameniahidi ilikuwa kiwango kikubwa sana.
The money they proposed to me was a large amount. That is what motivated me to go along.
Did you ever get the money?
Ahadi yao ilikuwa ni kwamba baada ya mimi kwenda kutoa ushahidi.
This is the promise they made. They said after giving my testimony as a witness before the ICC, it is only then that they will pay me the money. That is only after I have given testimony as a witness.
Why did you not testify then?
Niliweza kufikiria mara mbili. Nikashindwa ni pesa sitani.
I thought about it twice. and I asked myself, should money really drive me to go and give false testimony just to become rich? I decided that I will not get the money. I decided that I will not come before the court to tell a lie.
Did anybody else encourage you to give false account? So I want to understand, what was this money for?
I agree with you. Please ask the question. Did they tell you what it was for?
Counsel should not speak to one another. No speaking across the aisle. Direct all your comments to the chamber. If there's an objection, let it be made, and then there will be a ruling. Now, the concern is whether you should ask it as an open question. Did they tell you what the money is to be used for? Witness, did the people of the protection unit indicate to you or tell you what the money you say they promised you, what it is for, or what it was for?
Ndio waliweza kuniambia hizo pesa baada ya ushahidi.
Yes, they told me.
Nchi ambayo nitaweza enda kuishi kwa sababu usalama wangu, na wataweza kuwa kinilipa shilingi 120 kwa mwezi hadi miaka 20 ishe.
There were, people were talking at the same time, and somehow the interpreters lost the witness's voice. And we would like to appeal to the chamber to ask the witness to wait, to pause for a few seconds before answering the questions so that the interpreters can hear what he's saying. Thank you.
Witness, a request from the interpreters, which is a good request to you, is remember the pause I advised of you, I gave you earlier as an advice. Always wait until Ms. Sago has finished asking the question before you start answering. Even if you know the answer as she's beginning to ask the question before she finishes asking, even if you know the answer, wait until she has finished. Wait for 5 seconds after she finishes, and then start answering your question after 5 seconds. Now, the question is, what did they tell you the money was for?
Walinifahamisha hizo pesa ni za kugharamia maisha yangu.
They told me that the money was for my living expenses.
Witness, apart from the VWU, that you mentioned and explained to the court, did anybody else encourage you to give false account to the ICC?
You need to reformulate that question. I don't think the witness has suggested that the VWU had encouraged him to give false account, so that anybody who's just listening to testimony at that point must not get that impression. If that is something you want to inquire about, a separate inquiry, you may make that.
I'm guided. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Witness, did anybody else, apart from organization number 19, encouraged you or told you to give false evidence to the OTP?
Hakuna shirika lingine.
There was no other organization.
And I'd like to clarify something that you said before. That during the interview with the Office of the Prosecutor, they will stop the machine, go out and discuss outside before they will come back, and they would say, I have to pronounce or state the two names. That is, the names of Sang and Ruto. And I want to understand who was stopping the machine in this circumstance.
Walikuwa hawa wenye walikuwa kiendesha shughuli zenyewe.
It was the same persons who were conducting that activity.
And did these two persons tell you that you had to say anything else in particular during this interview?
Kitu ambacho tu waliniambia kwamba nihakikishe jina la.
What they told me was to confirm the names of Ruto and Sang. And it was these two who were supposed to appear as the leaders, and the others would merely follow them.
Were you told to say anything else in addition to what you just mentioned?
Hawakunifahamisha niongeze kingine.
Answer: no, they did not ask me to add anything further.
And what happened eventually to the half-filled book that you mentioned before?
Niliwapa wakabaki nacho.
Answer: I gave them the books and they kept them.
Books or book?
Kijitabu. kijitabu.
Answer. Just one book, one copybook.
And what happened to the other book that you did not bring to the interview?
Nilibaki na hivyo vitabu mpaka mwaka huu.
Answer. I kept hold of them until the month of January of this year, when the people at number 19 took them. And they also took the telephone that we would use to communicate.
When was the last time that you were in contact with people affiliated with organization number 19?
Nilikuwa nimesema lakini Januari mwaka huu wa mwaka
Answer. I mentioned that previously. It was in the month of January of this year, 2014.
Is it correct, witness, that Mr. President, I believe it would be better if I elicit this information from my next question from the witness in private session.
Private session.
We're in open session, Your Honors.
Mr. Witness, you confirmed before that you gave an interview with the Office of the Prosecutor in 2012. And you also confirmed that you recall that interview being audio recorded. I'd like now to bring your attention to certain passages from that interview and ask you certain questions. So for sake of efficiency, I will read out the passages, and Your Honors, I will provide the references to the specific transcripts, page and line, and I'm sure that if I'm quoting or misquoting from the transcripts, my learned friends from the other side will let me know.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm quoting from 0085007 at page 0094, starting at line 643, and it's at bundle 1, tab 2, redacted version number 2. Quote, "It was only in March that year when I met with him for the first time." And in the context of this sentence, him is Mr. 18. At line 649, same transcript, you said person 18 was a cattle dealer and he was dealing with General Maize Trading. Further on, at line 657 to 659, you added that person number 18 had a farm in a place number 7 and also another farm in another location that I'm not mentioning now. At line 794 from the same transcript, you said that person number 18 is a Kipsigis, and at line 798 you said that person number 18 is about 69. Witness, do you remember saying this to the office of the prosecutor?
Hayo yote nilisema na nilikuwa nimeshafunzwa na nambari 10.
I said all of that, and it was number 9 who taught me all of that.
Number 9.
Refreshing memory, or we seeking to cross-examine the witness. We haven't reached that stage yet when where he's declared hostile. It doesn't appear to me that we are refreshing memory. So I wonder what we are doing with the transcript. If my learned friend wants to cross-examine the witness on the contents of a previous statement, we would welcome an application to declare the witness hostile, and therefore cross-examine the witness on those issues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that the practice that has been established in the past few weeks is that there is a stage whereby the prosecution is entitled to bring to the attention of the witness his previous inconsistent statements and ask to clarify those inconsistencies prior to any declaration, if at all, of hostility. This is the basis on which we're proceeding, which we believe were set by Your Honors in the previous interview, the previous testimonies of the witnesses in this session.
It has been done in very many different ways, including when Mr. Ken offered for it to be done a certain way, and all agreed to proceed in that way. But in classic progression, we should first try and see if the witness may remember. If it's a matter of loss of memory, if that fails, then do we begin to say the witness does not want to remember and something else needed to be done. So the observation is not entirely useless, the one made by Mr. Fowl. So if we can try and see what it is you wanted to do with the witness at this stage, and then we'll move from there.
President, before we leave the point, I request the attention of the court.
True. Therefore, I believe it might not be the most efficient way to refresh the memory about information that is not accurate.
That is a good observation, of course. If it is clear that there is nothing, it's not a matter of the witness forgetting, but you've tried different ways to elicit information that you expect should be there and isn't forthcoming, then it's a matter to be dealt with at some point. By you, if you have to make an application that hasn't made before, so you may consider doing it then. But it's what needs to be clear is what is happening, so that if it's a matter of you having canvassed certain areas and you feel that, look, you have enough to make a certain application at some point, then you wait until you make that application. We should try to avoid anticipating a process that has not yet happened, or at the stage of which we are not yet. Do you understand?
I understand. Thank you, Your Honor.
And I also see that we are at the hour, so perhaps we should leave it there for today, and then by tomorrow you will then tell us, you would have thought about it and decided how to proceed. But in the meantime, as of now, you have used up 6 of those sessions you talked about, so you promised to finish after 6 sessions or 7. How are we doing?
Unfortunately, in the afternoon, I didn't anticipate that it would take as long as it took to explore certain areas. Therefore, I'm afraid that my original estimation was overambitious, and I will have to ask for indulgence from the chamber to allow the prosecution to have an extra session tomorrow to complete its examination of this witness.
Well, Mr. President, it's still not clear to me what time the prosecution intends or expect to finish. So if they finish by lunchtime tomorrow, I can finish on Thursday.
And Mr. Keegan-Katwa, so far, have you any idea whether you want to cross-examine and how much time you will need?
Mr. President, based on his statement and the position he had originally taken, we had expected to spend about 1.5 hours to cross-examine him. For me to be able to make a more informed assessment of how much time I need, if I need at all, I would probably have to wait for the prosecution's case to advance. So far, I am not very sure if I need to.
Mr. Fall, if you finished by Thursday, the Friday is a public holiday, isn't it?
Indeed, Mr. President.
All right, so we then have the 6th as the only time left.
Yes, that would be Monday.
According to
yes,
what we had anticipated. All right, Ms. Zago will think about completing by 11 tomorrow, if possible. If not, then we'll revisit the question. Try your best.
And Mr. President, could I suggest that we have the same sitting arrangement for the remainder of the week, this extra session, so that we can finish by?
It all depends on what other things are happening in the calendar report. You know that there are judges in this case who are also in other cases, so we have to keep that in mind as well.
Mr. President, if it also helps, in order to save time, we do not intend to object to an application for a declaration with regards to this particular witness. If that helps, maybe it would help save some time.
All right, let's adjourn now and reconvene tomorrow at 9:30. In the meantime, we always encourage the parties to discuss, see what can be done to move things along. All right? Court will rise.
All rise, we will.